Hi everyone, welcome to Automation Sensei. In this video, we are starting a new series on UiPath Maestro. This is going to be the first video in the series. So instead of jumping right into the tool, I will be setting up the stage. So we will basically understand why Maestro is important, what is Maestro and what problem it solves, and how it basically fits into the bigger automation journey. So let's quickly look at how automation has evolved over the period of time. So in this case, if you are new to UiPath or you are just getting started, this is a great place for you. So UiPath has been a leader and it has a great history within the automation world. So in the beginning, UiPath was more about a desktop automation tool. So you can imagine things like extracting the data from a website and applying some level of rules and validation and moving the data into like a different application. UiPath was more about a tool for that, and later it evolved more into a robotic process automation. So where it could do more than the desktop automation, it can read the data and it can maybe like put it into an Excel file, run some level of reporting and validation on top of it, and maybe like at the end of the day it can email it back to a person or a department. So basically what a human could do on a day-to-day basis, UiPath was able to do it. And things such as computer vision, one of the AI capability was within the platform right from the beginning. So with that you could easily interact with some complex application or like some different environment like Citrix, where the selectors to the application are not easily accessible. So you will basically go about reading the data from this environment or application, and you can also interact the data, or you can put the data back into the system. And then going forward, we had platform coming in such as AI Center and document understanding, with which UiPath was able to open up the platform for bringing in their own out of the box model, and we could also get our own machine learning model and we can go about deploying it in the platform, and we can easily integrate them into the RPA workflows. So we had got several models, maybe like custom NER or text classification, or let's say you have got a user feedback in an email, and based on that you have to prioritize. So you can go about using sentiment analysis. All great stuff through which you are really able to achieve some significant result. And also document understanding was, and it is still continues to be one of a great platform, because most of the business process it involves documents. So with document understanding, you can easily go about extracting the different fields from the document. You can go about retraining their out of the box model, and you can call them easily within your RPA workflow. A very go-to example can be invoice processing, where using document understanding, you can easily extract the different fields such as invoice ID or invoice amount, and you can also put in your custom logic. Maybe let's say if your invoice amount is above certain threshold, you can go about sending out to a human for approval. So in a nutshell, UiPath was able to solve pretty much of complex, and it was able to and you are able to look up for the end-to-end business process automation using UiPath platform. And speaking about the current world of where AI is heading, you could do lot much complex scenarios and tasks using UiPath. And UiPath was one of the initial platform that was able to give like a direct integration with the Gen AI activities such as OpenAI or like Gemini. So you can easily go about using this Gen AI activity. A very simple example that I can give here is, let's say you have got to extract different fields from an email or from a document. You can easily go about bringing in an Gen AI activity within the RPA workflow, writing the prompt for extracting the information, and also with the current state, you can go about building the AI agent within the platform, or let's say you have been building your AI agent in different open source platforms such as LangChain, or maybe like even different products such as Copilot, etc. You can go about building and even deploying the different AI agents within the UiPath platform. And looking at it, UiPath is a great platform where you will be going about automating your end-to-end business process. So things such as which you used to do traditionally, where you used to give like a certain set of steps for the robot, maybe like opening the application, clicking this button, copying this value back into like an Excel, right? All the structured aspect of the business process, you can go about building an RPA bot for doing it, and also let's say looking at the complex part of the business process where you want to make sense of what the request is all about, and you want to extract some data from an unstructured source, so you can easily go about building an AI agent for doing that, right? So the automation landscape is basically moving from not only just doing the rule based automation but also doing much more smart and adaptive automation. But this also brings out like one challenge. If you have got this robot AI agents in the application, and also if different humans are involved in this process, how you'll be going about manage everything in one place, right? Because in real business process, work doesn't happen like in one single task, and you may not ending up building like one single AI agent for solving the entire part of a business workflow, right? So AI agent is pretty much modularized, and it works the best if it is focused only on one module of work, right? So with this, when you're looking at the end-to-end picture, uh, it basically contains several series of steps, and in that it can have different components. It can have different robots doing the work. It can have different agents that is working together. A very simple example can be a loan processing, right? Where you are getting some intake, let's say from an email, then you may have like an RPA bot that will go about reading that email and downloading the attachment. Then basically an AI agent will go about extracting the information and making sense of what is the request is about, right? And calling the necessary tools for doing the processing. And at the end, if certain task that requires level of approval from a human, going about calling in human or a team for validating it. So when you look at the entire business process, it is basically a chain or a series of different tasks that is happening. So the bigger question that comes here is how you can go about efficiently building an automation and managing them from start to finish, right? Um, so that is something Maestro solves for. So using UiPath Maestro, you can easily go about building a scalable solution, and you can go about having a central place to control everything. And without having all of them coming through a central place or having a central layer, things will become much more scattered, and it will become a lot much difficult to maintain them, right? So that is where Maestro is really helpful. It will help us to orchestrate all the different parts of the business process together in one unified place. So what is Maestro? In simple word, Maestro is a platform which you will basically use to model and run the end-to-end business processes. So what is UiPath Maestro? In simple word, with UiPath Maestro, you can easily go about modeling a business process and executing them end to end. It allows us to design a business workflow that can connect the different components of automation, such as RPA or AI agents, and involve human wherever it is required. So instead of just thinking about one bot or one task, Maestro helps us to think at the process level. So it bring all of this component together, and it is a simple way to understand Maestro is can be this way. Maestro is like a conductor of an orchestra. right? So in an orchestra, every musician plays a different instrument, but the conductor makes sure everyone plays together at the right time. And similarly, in automation, since it involves robots, agents, systems, and different part of the application connection together, so Maestro helps us to coordinate all of them together. And before we understand Maestro deeply, we need to understand that Maestro is built on top of BPMN, right? Now, what is BPMN? BPMN stands for Business Process Model and Notation. Now, that may sound technical, but the idea is very simple. BPMN is a standard way to draw and explain a business process. It helps us to show what happens first and what will happen next, where the decision is made and where the human is involved, right? And the good thing about BPMN is that both technical and the non-technical people can understand it. Business user can look at the process and understand the flow. Development and the automation COE team can use the same model to build and execute the automation. So BPMN becomes a common language for both business and technology, and that really helps to model the business process well and going about executing and building the automation and AI agents further. Now let's connect BPMN back to Maestro. So Maestro uses BPMN to model the business process. So for each part of the BPMN workflow, we can connect the right capability of UiPath at the backend. For each part of the BPN workflow, we can actually connect it back to a right UiPath capability. For example, let's say an invoice processing use case where the first step is to read that email and download the attachment. You can connect it to a service task, and which will basically in the backend, you can connect it to a RPA automation, right? And let's say after processing or extracting the information from an invoice, you need to let's say on certain decision point, if the invoice amount is greater than certain value, right, you want to connect it to a human. Yeah, so in that part you can use user task, and you can call in human for reviewing and doing the necessary approval. And if there is like an event, or if you want to wait for a certain trigger or action from an external system, you can go about using integration service for doing it. And obviously for uh, doing an AI agent, you can go about building the AI agent using the UiPath platform and calling it within a service task. So the idea here is Maestro is not just a platform to model the business workflow. It is not just a simple map, but it also gives like the execution layer, right, where you can go about actually solving each different component in the business workflow. And that is the important part. And talking a little bit about this, and this will be much more resonating for the people who are from the RPA world. So when we used to design the automation so far, we used to think about a pattern such as dispatcher performer, or we will be ending up about going to use frameworks such as RA framework, right? So that approach worked very well on a task level automation. But when we move further into a larger business process and going about solving it in Maestro, we can start by defining the business process itself, right? So in this case, we can model the end-to-end flow using BPMN and then connect the right automation component behind the step. So the thinking basically shifts from here, right? Of basically a traditional thinking will be how do I build like one bot, to how do I design and manage the end-to-end business process flow better. Now that we understand the idea of Maestro, let me quickly show you how it looks inside the UiPath platform. So right now what you see on screen is UiPath Studio Web, and it is accessible through UiPath Automation Cloud. And on the screen you can basically see a simple process designed using BPMN style workflow. And do not worry too much about the detail of this process right now. The main thing I want you to notice here is how visually the process is represented. So we have a start event, basically a start point through which there is like series of automated steps, and finally a decision point and a human review step, and finally it goes out to an end point. And that's the beauty about Maestro. Instead of explaining the end-to-end business process through document, email, or any technical diagram, uh, this Canva that you can see on screen, it basically explains the entire flow in a very intuitive way. Now think about the experience. A business user can look at this and can understand the overall journey. The technical team can look at this and they can go about easily understanding and automating them, right? So if you look at traditionally, if you want to do this with the orchestrator and building different bot, uh, then you will really need to spend some time in documentation in explaining the part of business flow. So Maestro gives us one place where the full business process can be modeled and executed. And at this point, I just want to give like a quick overview about this Maestro platform. So what you see on the center is basically the canvas where we'll be going about modeling the business process. And obviously you will be going about using the different components, which are nothing here but the BPN components. So things such as the different events or maybe like the different tasks or like gateways, you can find them here and you can call them within the canvas. And on the left hand side you can basically see the different UI parts components, the things such as the queues or the integrations. You can go about defining them here. And in this canvas, since it is like a unified view, so you can basically go about creating the RPA or APIs or your agents within this one single view, and you can call them uh, basically within this business process. And at this stage, I just wanted to give a very quick look and feel of Maestro. And obviously, in the upcoming videos, we will be going deeper in how you can go about building the flows and to understand each of these components better. For now, just remember this: Maestro helps us to move from an individual level task automation to full business process level orchestration and automation. So let's quickly recap. So UiPath started with more like a desktop automation, then evolved more into different capabilities, and right now it is a complete agentic platform where you can go about uh, building an AI agent and putting all them together into one platform, and you can orchestrate with different components together. And business process is basically not just only one task, it involves multiple steps, group of people making decision, and at the end the goal is to achieve a greater outcome together. And in that case, UiPath Maestro helps us to model and execute those end-to-end business process using BPMN. Uh, it gives us a very clear and obviously and a very intuitive way where you can build all these components and you can execute them together. So in the next video, we will start looking at Maestro more practically and we'll be delving deep into each components at a time. So thanks for watching. This is Automation Sensei. I'll see you in the next video.